Hello and welcome to Taskmaster Talks with Kevin Sullivan. I am your host, JP John Poz, from the two-man power trip of wrestling. And of course, joining me is the star of the show, the former WCW and ECW World Tag Team Champion, former NWA Florida World Heavyweight Champion, and of course, one of the greatest minds and bookers ever in the history of professional wrestling, the Games Master, the Taskmaster, the Devil himself, Mr. Kevin Sullivan. Kevin, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, John. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Now that you know you have a message from the other side, you must be
Yeah,
feeling even better.
yeah.
Little does the audience know, but Gary Spivey, the psychic from WCW, spoke to Paul Orndorff, and he wanted me to tell Kevin, "What's up? Say how you doing."
Will you ask 5E to ask Paul who I should bet on the Super Bowl this year?
Yes, I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
Could be the Bucks again. We'll see.
yeah. Hey, you're a Yankee fan, right?
Oh yeah,
How did they do lately?
they won three in a row.
Yeah, they're coming on, huh?
It's
They,
weird. As soon as that fan threw that ball at your boy Verdugo, they won three in a row. Very weird.
yeah, and what I thought is this is going to rev up the greatest rivalry in sports again.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, you know, people people in Boston, they're really not Yankee haters. Do you remember when the Red Sox got their rings, 2004?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
biggest pop was for Mario, and
Yep.
he took off his hat. They respect them, but there's that thin line, and it makes baseball more exciting. And it's funny. I've often wondered this, John, and you're probably a bigger baseball fan than me. Why are their games twice as long as any other games?
It is crazy. I feel like in those games, they take more pitches. There's more walks. There's more hits. It's something about those games. They're 4 hours instead of 3 hours.
Yeah,
When they did that one weekend where they had the doubleheader and they were 7 innings, I was like, whew, thank God. Because the eighth and ninth inning, forget about it. They take hours
yeah.
whenever
And
they
what I
play.
what I think is because it's the Red Sox Yankees, they get more ads in.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Commercials a little bit longer. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crazy. So what do you think about the current state of the business right now? Is everything
Well,
hunky dory or what?
well, I don't know if it's hunky dory. Here's the thing. I mean, I could be called a dinosaur, but I don't think I am because I've been able to adapt and understand that everything changes. And right now, they have the best talent of all times. We talked off camera, and I said those Briscoe brothers and Jay Lethal and Sammy Callahan and Cody, and I watched the match Dustin had the other night with a kid that barely could find his way to the ring, and it was passable because of Dustin. Uh, but there's so many people out there, and there's nobody. Let me say this: they got Goldberg back again,
Yep.
Cena back again. I'm not sure they're going to let the Undertaker retire.
Thinking about that, waiting for him to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that. I mean, are they getting ready to unload that? You know what I mean? Because they got rid of a lot of people. But I looked at it this way. I've watched a lot of TV since that virus came about because I was stuck on the island. And I know see these great movies, and I see some really young, fine actors, and then I'd never see them in anything else, and I wonder what happened to them. And then I said, there's only a small percentage that make it to the top, and the rest of them languish in, you know, they doing something they love, but they don't get to where they want to be. Is it luck? Is it looks? Is it a combination of right time, right place? or is it that there's too many actors out there right now? Could there be too many wrestling companies out there, and they're splitting the fan bases?
Could be, because there is, it literally feels like now there's too much. You get MLW, ROH, Impact, AEW, New Japan in the US, WWE, NXT.
And then if you go to YouTube, Southwest Wrestling, who I work for, is on
Yep.
there. Plus, they're on uh, 34 stations across the country.
Yep.
That Florida Championship Wrestling just started.
Coming
They
back.
got
Yep.
five. They got five stations. I mean, how much? And then we've talked about this. You saw the Conor McGregor fight. I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets hit one time. He goes backwards and breaks his ankle. They packed them. People come from Ireland. You know, when they first had his first fight in Boston, they sold out in 26 minutes, and 90% of them were from Ireland.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, he hit the old Vince McMahon thing, give them every minority there is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Old school.
Yeah. And okay, he breaks his ankle. He didn't take 3 dives from the top. He didn't take some kind of 2 exotic moves, and then a sharpshooter and a DDT. He got punched and broke his leg going backwards.
Yep.
Fans just accepting us as a art form, if that is what we're going to be. My wife's an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what comes before a word? I'm an artist. I am a struggling artist.
Right. Yeah.
You don't get your money until you die, whether it was Van Gogh or anybody else. The woman in Arizona that did the phallic roses and flowers. Can't even remember her name, but she didn't make money until she died. Is that's what happening to wrestling today? Because there's so much of it. Because or not, there's so much of it. Everybody's an artist, right? Sylvester Stallone,
Yep.
Tony Bennett, Britney Spears, even though it looks like finger painting, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
Everybody's an artist.
Gotta love it.
Yeah. So, do you think that's what wrestling is going to be, a niche product that they accept it as? Wow, I'm going to go see these guys do these terrific moves. I don't care if it looks real. I don't care if there's one match where I say that might have been real. I'm just going to see these young superstars dive in and out of the ring and then compete against a sport where guys are getting their noses broken and eyelids split at UFC and the other MMA companies. What's your thought on that, John?
To me, it seems like wrestling is becoming way niche. Unfortunately, it's just, man, they can barely get over 2 million for Raw when they have Cena, and unannounced Goldberg comes back. But I mean, they pretty much pumped up Cena big time, and it only did, I think it was a 20% increase, which you may say is great, but still only 1.9 million. That's things. SmackDown 2.3 million. They're celebrating over it. Man, I watch Orndorff and Hogan. There was 30 million people watching. You know what I mean? It just dipped into this niche market, and MMA is way more popular.
Yeah, and have you noticed from when I get I got a little bit of obsessive compulsive disorder. When I get into something, you probably have it too, John,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yep.
Okay, when I get into something, I study it. Okay. So I went back and watched the old films from starting at the first one, right? It was in Denver or Dothan, Alabama, I forget. But anyway, they just came. They didn't have any interviews. Then I watched their interviews, and now their interviews are interviews from the 80s. They're doing Ric Flair. McGregor's doing Vince McMahon's walk. That's Vince's walk, isn't it? That's his
Yes.
Vince's
He
millionaire.
admitted it. Yeah. He admitted it. Yep.
Okay. Uh, I saw a thing that was talking about great talkers this week on a Joe Rogan thing, and Joe Rogan shows a clip of the big black guy that's he busts everybody on Twitter. He's a heavyweight, big guy,
Derek
and
Lewis.
yeah, and then he shows his interview, and then he says, "Wait a minute, I want you to watch this," and he shows an interview from the NWA World Championship Wrestling out of Atlanta with Gordon Soley and Ric Flair, verbatim. Verbatim. I said, Jesus, Rick's influenced the UFC.
Yeah.
I got Rick. They called me the Red Sox to get Rick to throw out that first pitch.
Yeah. Yep.
He's influencing baseball now. He's influenced UFC. Maybe he's got one more fight left in him.
Would
him
be
against
awesome.
him
Yeah.
against Connor.
I'd pay to see it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so do you think that is eventually going to hurt wrestling, where it's going to get smaller and smaller audiences?
Unfortunately, seems like it's going that way. I think so, which would suck, but I think it is.
Yeah, and here's the other thing: bringing back John Cena, who I admire, is the face of the company, and it only moved it that far. And the reason why they didn't, in my head, didn't mention Goldberg, he's kind of a controversial product there, right? I mean, a lot of people didn't like it that he beat Wyatt, right?
Yep.
And so I think they bringing him back because they probably have paid for X amount of days and he's one or two short, but they didn't want to push it. I mean, 25 years ago, you would have been plastering that all over the world, right? Bill
Yep.
Goldberg appearing. But it's what everybody says. Where are the guys taking these guys' places? Even McIntyre, who I think is fabulous, he beats Goldberg, but the rub isn't the same as when he was over Bill, right?
Yep.
And hey, Bill's learned a lot over the years how to protect himself. He didn't overly sully, did he? Do you remember the match? There was
Mm-hmm.
no people.
Yep.
He didn't overly sully McIntyre.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So, I mean, where are we going? I know AEW is the new thing, but it's people that have been seen. I told you I saw Dustin Rhodes, who I think is one of the best performers in wrestling today. He goes out and he's doing his thing. Couldn't you? I mean, isn't there a story? Just as off the top of my head, you got their father's lifelong enemy managing one of the sons. You don't see a problem with that if this was real?
Right.
Huh?
Yep. Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
like Mick going with the Russian on Rocky 3, right? If he didn't die.
Yep. I agree. Orange got a turn on him. I agree.
I mean, I watch it and I say, and the thing is, Is it because they don't want Arn cutting interviews? Because his interviews would blow everybody away?
Possibly.
I know Arn can't wrestle anymore. That doesn't mean he you know, to me, Arn Anderson is one of the most underrated guys in the business. And even though the fans say Arn's great, they have no idea how great he is. I mean, I've been in the ring with Arn, and he used to say, "Pick me up" was like picking up a refrigerator oiled up. He's so
Yep.
witty, but his work was so smooth, and his interviews. Hey, if you remember, there was Flair, there was JJ, there was Ole, and there was Tully. There was buried in there sometimes, and the Luger was in there for a little short time. But Arn was the guy that closed the interview down for
Yep.
all of them. You're not using one of the greatest interviewers in the history of the business. He's running around like I don't know. I mean, I certainly would fucking think that one of the most talented guys in the wrestling business, or one of the greatest talkers of all time, is managing the wrong guy.
Yeah. You think they'd know that?
Yeah.
Weird. Very, very weird.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned Goldberg. So some people like him, some people don't. That crowd, they loved him. He outpopped Cena that night. He got a louder reaction than Cena. So somebody's liking his return somewhere.
Yes, and that's what it is. I think we have a split audience. I think we have a younger audience for AEW, and we have an older wrestling audience for WWF that don't go on the computer all day, that don't tweet back and forth who's better, the NWO or the Bullet Club. Really? You can
Yeah.
hear that? Really?
Nuts. Yep.
How about Randy Johnson pitching against Bo Belinsky? Come on.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Isn't it?
Insane. Yep.
Yeah.
Come on. NWO for life. Come on.
Yeah. And you know something? Any interview that go through YouTube that Kevin Nash is on, I stop and listen to him, because invariably he mentions me in it because we had the same mindset. But
Yep.
I've talked to you about this before. I saw Kevin a couple of months ago, and it was great to see him. I mean, the guy can talk about anything, but he was almost 7 feet tall, and I heard Austin describe him. He said the first time he saw him, he said his shoulders looked like they were 7 feet wide. He was almost 7 feet tall, and he had abs.
Freak of nature.
Is there anybody out there like that today?
Nope.
And he
I'm
was
close.
cool.
Yep. Braun Strowman is a lot shorter and not as big and not as in shape and not as cool either. So yeah, it's funny. Like you just can't get a guy like that.
Yeah.
But as far as today's topic at hand, speaking of Kevin Nash, WCW Bash at the Beach 1996 from Daytona Beach, Florida at the Ocean Center. The attendance was 8,300. The tagline, "This is no day at the beach. Catch the big one." The pay-per-view buys were 250,000, which is a very nice number. Of course, the predominant storyline heading into this event was centered on your boy Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, known as the Outsiders. Now, if you go back into our archives, we have a complete episode dedicated to the Outsiders where we literally break down every show that they were in when we break them down piece by piece. So that's back in the archives if you want to go listen to that. We also have an episode dedicated to the NWO and the Hulk turn and everything else. So we will get into that today, but not in as further detail or as in-depth detail as we have in the past. But what do you think? 250,000 This pay-per-view was definitely beloved, and people were very, very interested in the outsiders.
Yes, I mean, it was going to solve the question, who was the third man?
Isn't that great? You can have a mystery, and so many people are interested in it. You got so many rumors. We've talked about this before, where the rumors were out there. People were saying Brett. People were saying Davey Boy Smith. People were saying Yokozuna. For some reason, Dave Meltzer was saying Mabel from Men on a Mission. So, I mean, there was so many different things out there and so many variables. Did you ever have any concern as to who the third man was going to be, or you knew Hulk was going to be it all along?
I told him he was going to be. I've told you this. I've kept him at my house the night before because
Yep.
I lived a mile from the beach. I wasn't going to let anybody talk him out of it. And I heard some people say, well, Sting was the alternative. For me, there was no alternative because Sting was homegrown WCW. You had the biggest babyface in the history of the business at the time turn heel. And I always say, I point to the trash in the ring. And I heard Nash just say, he was there and he looked at Scott and said, this is real heat. We may have trouble getting out of the ring. He had never been in that position before.
And remember, a fan jumped the railing. We can get into
Yeah.
that later. Remember, a fan and Nash knocks him the hell out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Hall, just for good measure, kicks him right in the head, which is great.
Yeah. That's what I've always loved, that the fans crawl through the ropes with their heads like a turtle sticking out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was going to tell you where in the Bahamas, they used to shoot turtles, which I thought was disgusting, right? And they made turtle soup over there. I lived in the Bahamas for a while, and I saw them shoot one, and it was just like the same thing. Head sticking out, swimming along. This guy's head, he's coming into the ring. Nash knocks him out, and Scott kicks him out. God, it was crazy.
Love it. Such heat. Just crazy. Just goes to show you Hogan turning was much more than just a good guy going bad. I mean, it was like he betrayed everyone.
He lied. He
Yep.
lied. He was a charlatan. It's like what I find about the American public is we love to build heroes up. We love to tear them down, but we love to see if they can resurrect themselves. And it happened with Hogan and Rock. I call that one. He shouldn't have done it in Toronto, if they wanted him, Hogan, to be booed. No.
Right. He
Yeah.
knew he was going to get over like Rover as a baby face. Yeah.
Yeah.
With this show leading into it, are you very happy with Hall and Nash and what they've been able to accomplish and the buzz just surrounding the outsiders and the third man?
Oh, yeah. They were just so, here's the problem with those guys. They play their role so well that some guys can't cut that role off.
Yep.
Meaning, some guys can't see them as humans, they see them as the outsiders. I mean, the easiest thing in the world, Kevin's doing these things and he's cranky. They used to call him Big Grouch. He'd be cranky and it was good cop, bad cop, right? I knew the game. And fuck
Yep.
this, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd say, hey, Kev, who's pitching for Detroit tonight? Oh, we get right into baseball. And then 2 minutes later, interview for outsiders. I'll be there when I want to be. And I'd say, yeah. How's do you think they'll ever build a statue of the Kayla? Of course they've got to build a statue of the Kayla. They never should have torn down old Tiger Stadium. Yeah. Hey, I'll be back in a minute. I got to cut this interview. But the other guys couldn't see through that. And these guys were so smart that they knew. I have baby faces coming to me and say, I mean, smart guys coming to me and saying they're on Vince's payroll and they're going to try to destroy us from within. I said to one of them, hold on, John, can you?
Yep, no problem. So as Kevin's going to hold on for a second there, say goodbye to his wife, we just want to mention here that on June 10th, Nash debuted. Obviously, May 27th, Hall debuts. And then at Great American Bash 96, Bischoff refuses to give them the three names that they wanted when they said they wanted three opponents. He refuses to give it to him. They power bomb him through a table. So eventually, we're going to find out on the following night on Monday Nitro that the three men are going to be Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger to face Hall, Nash, and this mystery third man. Pretty damn good threesome for WCW: Sting, Savage, and Lex Luger.
Right, and getting back to, I said to the guy that said that to me, I said, do you know this would be the biggest lawsuit in the history of television programming? Vince ain't going to tell them that they're working for him. I said, he certainly isn't handing them cash at Joe's bar on Friday night.
Right.
It'd have to be a line of paper. And I'm telling you, most of these guys didn't believe it. They thought they were working for, Kevin Nash said when they announced that Razor and Diesel were going to be on TV, WWF, they brought him in and gave him a $250,000 raise not to go.
Crazy.
You've heard that, right?
Yep.
So they knew how to work the system, John. So
they worked him. They worked everybody for sure. Yeah. With the outsiders, of course, leading into the show, they refused to reveal the identity of the third man. They continue to interrupt the WCW events leading in. So, I mean, there is so much heat and just everything is building and building and building for this event. The tension is just crazy going into this show. It's just awesome. Have you ever felt that before when you're booking WCW, that this much kind of momentum is on your side?
I have seen a lot of stuff in my day. There was never anything as hot as this. This was New York has come in and attacked us. If they used Sting, it wouldn't have worked. It was the King of New York coming down. And the three of them holding off a cold company.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. It's just crazy to think like where the business was, and then those three literally completely changed the business. And obviously, a lot of it has to do with Hulk turning heel, but man, they turned the business upside down. It's crazy.
Yeah, John, you'll remember this. You were a kid when there was malls, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
How many NWO and Austin 316 shirts did you see? That's all you saw.
Crazy everywhere. Even in my school, me and my buddies, all of our high school, we all would wear NWO shirts and pretend to be like, "Oh, I'm Hall, I'm Nash. You're this, you're Vince." Everybody had their NWO shirts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The popularity of the NWO was nuts, but obviously here is kind of the precursor as we're setting it up. So the pre-show, the main event matches, if you will, they had one dark match. Jim Powers defeats Hugh Morris in about 4 minutes. Then the main event show, and that was the Steiner brothers defeat Harlem Heat in about 5 minutes by DQ, and this was a tag title match. What do you think about putting these two guys, or these two teams on the pre-show match in a tag title match?
I thought it would draw our attention that this was going to be the biggest pay-per-view in the history of pay-per-views. That if they went on a free TV, something was going to happen that was so big that they gave you away a match.
Yes, exactly. My thought as well. I mean, that's crazy. Like, wow, if this is on the pre-show, what the hell is on the pay-per-view? It's like the pay-per-view is so big, so jam-packed.
Yeah.
So then Bobby Walker defeats Billy Kidman in 2 minutes. The Rock and Roll Express defeat Fire and Ice in about 2 minutes. And then a quick match, but two great legends. Eddie Guerrero defeats Lord Steven Regal in about 3 minutes, 30 seconds there, which is another match you throw out there like, wow, that's not on the pay-per-view. Regal and Guerrero. Sure,
Right.
but obviously two awesome workers and two great names who could easily be on the pay-per-view.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the whole thing was, if they're giving it to us free, what's going to happen and who's the third man?
Exactly. So as the pay-per-view begins, we get an awesome opening match as Rey Mysterio Jr. defeats Psychosis in about 15 minutes. These two have got some sort of chemistry, obviously dating back to their days together in Mexico, and they know each other quite well. But man, their chemistry is awesome, and this is another hot, great cruiserweight opener for WCW.
It doesn't take anybody smart to put Rey Mysterio on first on the biggest pay-per-view in my mind in the history of pay-per-views for what's going to happen. You put the best on first.
Yep.
And Ray was and still is the best.
No doubt about it. Now, the next match is something that almost doesn't fit in with where you guys are headed and doesn't fit really in with the show as much either. It's John Tenta defeats Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart in the Carson City Silver Dollar match in about 9 minutes. Of course, that pole is there with the Carson City dollars on a strap on the pole. And obviously, these two behemoths are not going to be able to get up that pole. Jimmy Hart has to climb the pole. What was the thought process here? Because this match does not fit into kind of where you want to go with this mold of WCW.
This was me bowing down to Hulk's wishes.
Acquiesce.
Acquiescing to his wishes. Thank you. He wanted his guys on the card. He loved gimmick matches. He didn't think like you did that they couldn't climb up the pole. So Jimmy climbed up the pole. But it kind of calmed everything down so they could talk about the main event.
It is like the common recurring theme. They keep talking about the main event. Right. Who's the third man? Eventually, later on the night, we will cut back to Mean Gene, and he'll be saying, "Oh, I hear a familiar voice. Is it a familiar voice? I can't tell." Like maybe it's one of those things where he's maybe hyping it up to be, who is this guy? He sounds familiar, but it's also, wow, like Mean Gene cares about it. They keep asking the announcers to ask Mean Gene to go check the back, see if they see anybody. Like it just keeps the interest going, right?
Right.
The next matchup, Diamond Dallas Page defeats Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a tape fist match to retain the Lord of the Rings ring, basically, the Lord of the Ring. What do you think here with DDP going over Duggan tape fist match? Another one that's a little
strange.
Decent, but yeah.
Strange.
Yep.
That Lord of the Ring was Dusty's. He beat, I don't know if it's Ollie or Flair for that. And which kind of made him a dual, split the world title at the time. We always got in some trouble over that. But it should have just been a tape fist match. And, Page was going to get his push. So everybody stand in line and take it like a man, because he's getting his push. And
so he hits the diamond cutter. He gets the win after some little bit of chicanery. After the match, Duggan tapes up the right hand and punches Page out. Is this just to keep Duggan strong here?
Yeah.
What's the psychology kind of behind that? Is that when the fans or in like when you're booking it, the fans' eyes like, okay, DDP just beat Duggan. Duggan's escalated, or de-escalated. He's kind of down. Then the punch puts him back in the mix, and you kind of forget that he lost. Like, what's the booking psychology?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And Page is the kind of heel that could take that kind of beating afterwards. Some heels you can't do that to, but Page was learning on the job, and he did a hell of a job. And that's what helped him turn babyface.
Man, he was I mean, here he's like kind of your corny, cheesy chicken shit heel. Although he played it well, he's so much better as that people's champion babyface, which we'll
Right.
see, in the coming months. The next matchup, your favorite tag team of all time, the Nasty Boys, defeat Public Enemy in 11 minutes and 30 seconds in a double dog collar match. This is a crazy brawl between four guys you'd expect a crazy brawl from.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted because we wanted to start pacing the night now. We had an unsuccessful Carson City match. We had the tape fist match. Now we have the collar match. We want to get into shock value now. If you don't, if you that didn't get you, wait till the next match. You know what I mean? Not really wait till the next match. Wait till you see what we got for the main event.
The next matchup, Dean Malenko defeats Disco Inferno by submission to retain the Cruiserweight Championship in about 12 minutes. Pretty good match here. Obviously, you expect that from Dean. Disco showing that he could work a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought Disco could work. I think he's underrated. I think he has different opinions. Uh, you know, we all have a he had a great match with Dean, and he didn't like how Dean worked, and I don't think how Dean liked how Glenn worked, but it worked out perfectly, and it was very good, and it was solid, but it wasn't shocking. So again, you can start talking about, have you heard who the third man is? Who do you think? Ba ba ba.
Building and building and building is crazy. So he hits the double underhook power bomb, which is a great signature Malenko move. Texas Cloverleaf gets a submission, retains the title. Disco, not your typical cruiserweight though. He's a bit bigger than that. But years later, you guys do this great thing where he's losing weight and he's trying to be a cruiserweight. I mean, great stuff there from Dean and Disco. The next match, Steve Mongo McMichael with Queen Deborah defeat Desperado Joe Gomez in about 7 minutes. What do you think here? A little bit too long for two kind of green guys at this point?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But timing out the show sometimes can be difficult. We should have given Dean and Glenn 2 more minutes,
Right.
but we didn't. Sometimes things just gets by you, especially when you know there's excitement in the air and you know something else. You kind of not you're so honed into the main event, you kind of miss things. John.
Oh, sorry about that. Just
John.
went over. Yep. Sorry about that, Kev.
That's okay, babe.
I don't know what the heck happened. My internet just went crazy. But Desperado Joe Gomez, you were saying take away 2 minutes from that match and give it to Dean and whatever. But when you're timing
Yeah.
out, you're saying it's harder than you think.
Yeah, it's harder than you think. And the other thing is you're really honing on the main event. And Jody Hamilton, who's excellent at timing, he'd throw out the numbers at me. And I said, yeah, that works. That works. And when he came to that 7 minutes, now I'm balls into the show. And I'm not even thinking 7 minutes with 2 green guys. I'm thinking, let's get this thing over with so we can get to the main event. Then that's no knock. That's that
Yeah.
you're so excited.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, you want to speed it along. Oh, let's get to the next. Get to the next. So where is Desperado Joe Gomez these days?
He's still in Tampa. He's still the mayor of Tampa, just about. He has, he's been there forever and he's done well for himself.
I feel like he's not disappeared, but like just forgotten. Like he maybe was a prospect at one point, but almost like forgotten, lost in the shuffle. I know he's very successful away from wrestling, but
Right.
almost forgotten guy there.
Yes, he is. And I think it's because he had so many other things going besides wrestling. He didn't give it his full attention.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. The next matchup, the Nature Boy Ric Flair with Miss Elizabeth and Woman defeats Konnan for the WCW United States Championship in about 15 minutes and 30 seconds. What do you think here? The Nature United States Championship.
You know, I had to put the belt on him. He really didn't want it, but I couldn't go on this show and not have Nate be part of the historical thing. So I couldn't give him the world title, so I gave him the closest thing we had to it. And him and Konnan had a hell of a match, I thought.
What did you think, though, as far as him not being the world champion? Is that like, or in his mind too, is that putting him down a level?
Absolutely. Before you answer before you said the question, I can answer yes. He thought it was a step down. He didn't want it. He wanted to get rid of it as soon as he got it.
What's your thought, though, on it? Like, should maybe he not have won it, or you're okay with him winning it?
I was okay with him winning it because he's Ric Flair, who is a big thing, and the people now happy because no matter when Ric's a heel, he's still a babyface, and they're feeling really good. And maybe the outsiders are going to get their due, and maybe Mabel is going to come down. Mabel, really, really, Mabel. Okay, so before Mabel comes down, they're feeling really good about themselves. And they're going to win. WCW is going to win. Little do they know, they're going to be part of history.
Yes, with Flair kind of not being downgraded, but he's only going to be the United States champion here. He's going to win that. Does Konnan have any problems with kind of giving up the belt?
No. He always wanted to work with Rick. In fact, he asked Rick to do some of the bumps that Rick is famous for.
Yes. Do you think that Flair here is thinking like, okay, something like is amiss here? Obviously, the world title is going in a different direction than me. Do you think Flair at this point is not feeling out of the loop, but like losing confidence, maybe?
I don't think he's losing confidence because I was always a big Rick proponent. But I think he's wondering, are we going too heavy for the NWO?
Does he have any like input, or I know he's not really part of the
Of
booking committee
course,
or anything at this point,
of
but
course, Rick had input. I don't mean to cut you off, but of course he did, because he's Ric Flair. You're going to take time to listen to him.
right. He does
Yeah.
cheat too to win the match. He's got both feet on the ropes to use for leverage, so he does really cheat to win technically.
Yeah, but it's a Ric Flair move. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain. I mean, hey, look at Rick. He's bigger now than he's ever been. I mean, Dustin Pedroia would have went to the Hall of Fame if he played the way he played for the 10 years that he played. You know, he had 2 years that he didn't play.
Yep.
The biggest thrill for him is to have Ric Flair come in, give him a belt. That says something.
Pretty remarkable, yeah.
Yeah. At this point of Rick's life.
Yeah. It's funny, like no matter how many times Flair would get knocked down or lose, or let's say get not deep pushed, but put into like the upper mid card instead of the main event, nothing. He's like Teflon. Nothing hurts him. It's funny, like
In the end of the world, it's going to be Cher. It's going to be Cher. It's going to be cockroaches, and it's going to be Rick. And I don't know if Rick's going to have both the cockroaches and Cher, or just Cher alone, but it's going to be the three of them.
Right there. I mean, he's one of those guys in wrestling where he even says like, "Hey, I got buried. They buried me in the sand in the desert." He comes back and nobody like says like, "Oh, he's a jobber now." Like they're like, "This is Ric Flair." Like no matter what happens to him, he's Ric Flair. Like he's up there. Like he can't do anything to hurt him.
You can't. He's bulletproof. He's Ric Flair. He's Ric Flair. I mean, just think, I mean, Colin McGregor, he talks about Rick being the original OG. I mean, everybody, he does commercials, he goes to ball games, he's at the Super Bowl. I mean, he's Ric Flair, the one and only.
Now, the next matchup features yourself and the Giant defeating Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit in 8 minutes in a tag match. Thing here is the Giant is the champion. Did you think that he didn't need a world title match, or what was the thought process here of putting you and the Giant together against Arn and Benoit, no title match?
Because we're doing that split. It's going to be coming with Benoit and Arn. Later on, you'll see a split coming. And the Giant, I didn't think I could have that. I'm from that old school that the championship goes on last. And I didn't want to put the Giant in that position. I mean, he would have been whistling in a graveyard after dark, after what happened with the Outsiders and Hogan, right?
Makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
So with this, it's interesting. McMichael comes down, hits the Giant with a briefcase. The Giant chases him to the back. So you're left 1-on-2 for a while with, getting beat down by Arn and Benoit. Then the Giant makes his return. What's the thought process here in that booking? He kind of makes a triumphant return, almost babyface like?
Yeah, almost babyface, because you got to remember WCW is going to need baby faces to fight this horrible thing coming down from the north. The rebels need all the ammunition they can get.
Yep. So the Giant is left in the ring with Arn, and he beats Arn with the chokeslam 1, 2, 3. You and Benoit are fighting on the outside, really building up that feud. So you're kind of keeping that a little bit separate from the Giant and kind of doing that, right? Is that the thought process? You got to keep them a little separate, and you guys are going crazy, and Woman is trying to kind of get involved and stop you, but there's no stopping you.
Right. And the other thing is, Arn, it's not going to hurt Arn to lose to the Giant.
Nice. True. Especially not with where the Giant's going next month. He's going to fight Hogan 1-on-1 for the title at Hog Wild.
Right.
So this is the main event of the evening. The Outsiders, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and the Mystery Man, which turns out to be Hulk Hogan, fight Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger to a no contest in about 17 minutes. Man, the hostile takeover match. One of the most talked about, if not the most talked about match of all time, right?
Right.
When you're booking this thing and Luger gets taken out of the match, because that was another rumor that Luger may turn heel, which obviously would have been weak, and then there was rumors Sting may turn, which kind of turned out weak. When you take out Luger, what's the thought process there? Make it 2-on-2, so when Hogan comes out, who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, when Mabel will be coming down, give Mabel more room to get down. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. You hit it right on the head. Let's clear this out for the grand entrance.
Because it's 2-on-2. Literally, you don't know.
Yeah.
And obviously the announcers didn't know either, right? Because Heenan goes, whose side is he on? Which was kind of a point of contention with a lot of people. I didn't really have a problem with it because Heenan hates Hogan, so it kind of goes in line to that. What did you think of him saying that?
It cringed me a little, but I fell into your camp. It would be Bobby would say shit like that because he hated Hogan.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. What'd you think about the match before Hogan came out? Because it was great, and the crowd was like on edge. You could literally sense tension in the crowd, which is rare but awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they knew something was going to happen. I guess they were all waiting for Mabel, and we were no disrespect to Mabel, but I knew in my head I had seen this 1,000 times before it happened. And it was like I was watching a movie again. I knew what it was going to look like. It wasn't shocking to me that the trash, the people hitting the ring. I knew exactly. I had seen it 1,000 times. When I went and told him he had to turn heel, I saw that. It's almost like projecting something.
And this was kind of your culmination, right? Go through all that crap
Yeah.
with Hulkamania, and then all leading to this, him turning heel, and probably the most memorable moment ever in the history of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. But look who you did it with. You know, I mean, you couldn't have picked 6 better guys. So hats off to them. They were the ones that did it. I just kind of said, hey, listen, you got to do it. And I think he was smart enough to understand that it was a brand new life for him.
Did you ever have any concern, like when he was walking down to the ring? Because it doesn't sound like you did, but did you ever have a concern, like, oh, I don't know how they're going to react? But you were 100% sure that they're definitely going to boo the hell out of him.
I knew at first when I pulled the rug out from underneath them, they popped when they came down. When he came in and started being a heel, they got sick and pissed and mad, and they never saw it coming.
No, which is just
Yeah.
unbelievable, just so shocking, and everyone's so shocked. I mean, just the mainstream media shock. Hulk Hogan turns bad. Newspapers. Hulk Hogan turns. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody's shocked, and he creates, as he says in the promo, the at first kind of he says New World Order, then goes back in the New World Organization, then goes back to New World Order, which obviously it sounds a lot better. New World Order, which he kind of had to get through his head, but still. Awesome promo, nailed it. Mean Gene was on fire. Hall Nash on fire, throwing the trash. Fan tries to get in the ring. He gets beat up. What an atmosphere.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
What do you think about Tony and Dusty on the call? They were awesome as well. Talking about that betrayal and that backstabber Hogan.
And no one could have done it better than the great late Dusty Rhodes, because he was a huge, one of the top 3 baby faces of all times. I mean, from the beginning of wrestling, when he put the stamp of disapproval on Hogan, it nailed Hogan, and it made it look like, hey, Dusty's telling us they're coming down from WWE and they're coming for us. We better prepare. He did a magnificent job. I love Dusty.
Oh man, just that moment is just so great, just so cool, just so awesome. Like to have everything kind of work so perfectly. The match was great, and Luger gets taken out was great. Little touch. Then Hogan comes out, he gets cheered at first, then throws the ref out, gets booed. Shivani on the call, like hesitating and then getting completely mad and pissed off, and the leg drop onto Savage. Then Hall makes the jokey count and he pins Savage, but just perfect stuff. I mean, this is WWE at its finest. You don't get much better than WWE at its finest.
Not at this moment. This is one of the times I would say it hasn't been anything close to this, except maybe Rock and Austin and Hogan and The Rock in, what is it, 27 years?
Yep. Crazy.
It's up there. It's crazy.
It's funny to note also that we were talking about whose side is he on. They actually edit that out. The original broadcast, of course, had it, but it gets edited out later on when they had Classics on Demand and the WWE Network. For some reason, they edit that part out.
Right. I think Eric just wanted to be sure.
But it's interesting that Vince, like years and years later, they took that part out. They didn't want that on there.
Oh, that's amazing. I thought
Weird.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
You guys did it on the tape. When you get the tape, they tape. But Vince did it too. Like they wanted it off of there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess more people lined up on the other side of the fence than you and me, John.
Yep. And like I said before, we go into the archives. We have the Hogan turns heel. We have the Outsiders episode. We have even more in depth into this. But just looking back and thinking about it, man, NWO still to this day. I mean, they changed wrestling history forever. The NWO T-shirts are still selling like crazy. What an angle! Is this the best thing you've ever written?
By far, yeah. By far. But this was like writing The Irishman. Harvey Keitel, De Niro, who else was in it? I mean, everybody.
Pacino
Joe
was in it, wasn't he?
Pesci, yeah, Joe Pesci, Pacino. God, Martin Scorsese takes credit for it. God, I could have done that one. You know, with that talent, because they would have done it themselves. I mean, I didn't tell Scott to count three. He just, these guys, money guys know how to draw money.
So cool though, that pairing, like you're thinking like, wow, Hogan, Hall, and Nash
Yeah.
goes together perfectly. And they throw Mean Gene in there, interviewing them all pissed off, and like, look at this trash, Hogan. Look what you did. I mean, what a night, what a pay-per-view, what a way to end it. And even after that, like, you really feel the tension there as you're building on Nitro as these guys start showing up and taking over, and then Hogwild as they take over. And then Hogan gets the title and he spray paints, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But it just keeps building and building into this big crescendo for the NWO. But this was the launching off point. This kind of set it off, and the third man did not disappoint. Could have been no other guy than Hulkster.
Right. And I'm sure the bars in Daytona Beach did huge business that night. So
yeah, no doubt about it. What do you think overall the pay-per-view? You got to give it a thumbs up, right?
2 thumbs up. Changed the course of wrestling history.
It is rare that something comes along like that, because wrestling for a while, it was kind of on the downswing. You know, right. Hogan obviously had his moment. There was a few years it was okay. It was fledgling a little bit, not that great. And boom, another Hogan era, if you will, another Hogan period, the NWO, and sets it off again. And obviously then Austin the Attitude Era kind of take over from there. But it's Hogan again who sets the course of wrestling.
Right. Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Whew, man, awesome show. Anybody that hasn't seen it, you're crazy, because you got to go back and you got to go back and see that thing. But I give it 2 thumbs up as well. Great show. So let's head over to the plugs. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website tmptempire.com, and of course you can follow Kevin on Instagram at Taskmaster Talks. Also go to prowrestlingtees.com and check out the Kevin Sullivan store. Kevin, what else you got going on?
I'm going to be in Lubbock, Texas this weekend at a meet and greet. Please come and our fans that, John, I have a lot of fans come and say, hey, I listen to you guys' podcast.
Nice.
And it's nice. So come on and say hello to me.
Nice. Good stuff as always, Kevin. And don't forget, Paul Orndorff did say hello. So don't forget that. Keep that in your mind. All right.
Okay, I will.
And supposedly a little elbow, a little nudge.
Okay.
But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Taskmaster Talks with Kevin Sullivan.